for the week number 6. So here is week number 6 class. So let me start sharing the screen. So the screen is shared here. So the chapter content that we will be looking for is methods. So we will be discussing about object-oriented programming language methods. So to start with methods, let me give you a scenario where we are having a problem that we want to find out the sum of integers from 1 to 10 and from 20 to 30 and from 30 to 5 to 45 respectively. So what do we want to do here is we want to find out the sum of the integers from 1 to 10, 20 to 30 and 30 to 5 to 45. So you can see here that the question here is sum of the integers, but we are having 3 different scenarios. So this is scenario number 1, this is scenario number 2, and this is scenario number 3. So we have 3 different scenarios here. So how do you do in normal program? That there are 3 different solutions for these ones. So you can see that we declared integer sum is equal to 0. And then we are saying that we want the sum of the integers. So we are declaring sum of the integers as initial value as 0 because we will be taking the summation. And we put on a for loop for integer I is equal to 1, starting from 1 and up to 10 less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. And every time sum plus is equal to sum of I and sum plus is equal to I. So now at the end, we will write out system.out.println from 1 to 10. And if you remember in the last class, we discussed about for loop. So we are having initialization, then we are having a condition, and then we are having an update where we are going to have. So we started from 1, and every time the number is incremented by 1, and we get the total sum. So this is for one particular scenario. Now, similarly, we are having for the second scenario where we want to print the sum from 20 to 30. So same thing, we start the loop from 20, we go up to less than or 30, and the other things remains the same. Even similarly, for the third scenario of 35 to 45, we start the loop from 35, go up to 45, I plus plus, and every time the sum will be keeping on adding, and at the end we are getting the sum. So what are we doing here? We are repeating the steps, but only the change is this steps is only in the for loop. For some, and for this sum, it is same, only the change in the for loop, and also we are having the similar conditions over here. So if you are having some of the problems where you are repeating the same code for many number of times, then the best solution is to use a for loop. Okay. So now the solution for the previous problem, just we mentioned that. So we will be writing similarly like a main method, but this is not a main method. This is only a other method. So we can give, a program can have many different methods. So one of them is the main method. And now after the main method, we say that we want to write another method, which is called as sum. So it will go with the same name, public, static. And here we are writing integer. And this one is called as the method name. And then we are having the parameters where integer low and integer high. So we will declare it, and I will let you know how we are doing it. Then we have sum is equal to 0 from the previous slide that you saw. We started the sum is equal to 0. And the only change was in these values. Low and high value was the only change. So we started from 1, we go up to 10. So we started from 20, we go up to 25, we started from 30, we go up to 40, 35, whatever the numbers that we have taken, and we are having an increment, update, condition, and as initial value. Then we said that we want the sum. So we have already declared the sum. So we will write sum is equal to sum plus I. It will calculate, keep on repeating. In the first case, the low value will be 10. It is less than 20. Yes. So sum is equal to sum plus of 10 added. Then the I value will become 11. So 11 is less than 20. Yes, it is added. So now the other value of sum was 10. So it will be plus 11. 10 plus 11, 21. So 21 again plus 12. So the loop will keep on continue. And at the last, after the loop is completed, it will return the sum. Where the sum will be returned? the sum will be returning the value to a condition here where we declare it as an return value as integer. So return sum, when you are returning the value, the return value will go as an integer over here. So that's why we are writing the integers return sum, and the return type is what? Sum. Sum is what? Integer. So here you should write the method name as integer. Now, this is one of the method that we have written. And now you go back to your main method, public static void main string args. So now, what are the different values that we are writing? So system.out.println, sum from 1 to 10 is. So what is the change? 1 to 10. And what we are calling the method with sum. So what is the low value? We have here the low value is 1. And what is the high value? 10. So now the value 1 and 10 will be passed on to the method. And now everything will remain the same. Sum is equal to 0. Integer I value is equal to 1, where you started here. So it will be 1 here and it will be 10 here. So 1 and the high value is 10. So now I plus plus the values will be calculated. So you will get the total of those values. So next time you can see here that we are having another all those values. So I can just erase all this on the slide. And now again, I take now for the next time, we have low value is 20 and high value is 30. So the program is again going and calling the low value and high value is 30. So the same program is repeated. So now low value is 20 and high value is 30. It is replaced. So the for loop is working again. So you will get the return answer as the total sum. For the next scenario, it is 35 and 45. So 35 will come here and 45 will come here. So now the value of low is 35 and the value of high is 45. So the loop starts from I35 up to 45. It repeats and every time you get the sum. So what we are doing, we are saving a lot of programming code just by calling the method. So this one is called as calling the method. So wherever you are going to use it, we call it as calling the method. And here we are writing the definition of the method. So we call this one as definition or defining the method. So we are defining the method here and we are using it. So which is better for us? The previous one, what you saw, this one is better, where you are writing so many for loops and we are doing the same job. So repeating task. But here we are just writing one code and we are simply using it in a way that the calling will take place. So methods will automatically help you out in reducing the code, and repeating task, you can reduce it. So you don't want the same job to be repeated. So we just use one method and then we can get on going to that. I hope this is clear for you. Now let's continue further. What do we have in a method now? So now, as I mentioned to you, a method is a collection of statements that are grouped together to perform an operation. So a group of statements, so a collection of statements. So you can see here, we are having a collection of statements here. So a collection of statements here, and they are grouped together. So they are grouped together here from top to bottom or from bottom to top, and they want to perform an operation. So you can see here that we are having a method name as public static int maximum. So we are having maximum is the name of the method and the return type is integer, and we are using the parameters integer number 1 and number 2. So they are what we will be using in our program. And then we have integer result. So we want to find out the number 1 which is bigger. If number 1 is bigger than number 2, results is equal to number 1, else result is equal to number 2. So it is like finding out which number is bigger. So first number is bigger or second number is bigger. So this method, we want to use it for many values. So we will declare a method inside it and we write like it's like a program itself. It is a part of a program where you can simply bring the code to be smaller. Now, when you define a method, and as I told you, you can call it as a invoke a method, or you can call it as a calling a method. So when you call a method, we call it with an actual arguments or actual values. So now we want the answer to be integer z is equal to maximum of x comma y. So x comma y will be the values that you can call. So say for example, I am calling the method with integer z is equal to maximum of, so that you should write the max method name, maximum of 70 and 75. So these are two numbers. So what will happen? The program automatically jumps to the method program. And now we have the name as max, and we are having the two values 70 and 75. So the number is 70 and the other number is 75. So what is happening here? We have result. The variable is declared. If number one is greater than number two. So number one is what here? 70 is greater than 75. No. So the result is equal to number one. So result, so it is not greater than. Else the result is equal to number two. So then result is going to be number two, which is 75. So out of 70 and 75, 75 is bigger. So the return will be the result. So the result is written over here and it is getting an integer value. So when it is an integer value, you get the number as 75 here. So what is z is equal to 75. So similarly, you can use the same method for different values. Say, for example, again, I am having a different value to be taken. Say, if I call the method with maximum f, um, I will pick a number now, 35 and 23. So which is the biggest number out of it? So the program will directly call these values and number one and number two will be replaced. You can check with the method name here, max. So you are having here max. So the first value is 35 and the second value is 23. Now the program continues. Number one is 35 and number two is 23. If number one is greater than number two, result is equal to number one. Yes. Number one, 35 is greater than 23. Yes. So the result is 35. So no need to go to the else statement because already is there. So you get result is equal to 35. So return result. So return 35. So the program will return the value to this integer value, which is 35. And now the program will get 35 as an answer. So the integer value is going to be integer z is equal to 35. So that way you can directly get the value passed on from maximum to different programs and different set of values. So that's how the program will be continued for different methods with different values. Now, as I mentioned to you that this is the method header. We call this one as a method header. We have here modifiers where we call it as public static, and the return type, as I mentioned to you, what is the method name is max. What is these are called as formal parameters because we are making it formal for everyone to use. So, and all this together is called as a method signature. So method header, modifiers, return type, method name, and here we are having the formal parameters, and here this is called as the complete one is called as a method signature. Now this is the method body where we are having the result, number one, number two, and all those things, and we are returning the value, return value. So whenever we have a return, so we use this return type declared and return value will be returned accordingly what we are writing here as return. And what is the return type? This is called as a invoking a method in your main program. You can write the actual arguments or actual parameters that you are going to use, and the program will return the value. Okay. So method signature is the combination of the method name and presents the parameter list. So this is one is called as a method signature. From here to here is a method signature, and this one is the method header. So this is the method header, and this one is called as a method signature. So what it has the method name. So method name is here, and the parameter list. So you are having the parameter list. So the other things remains the same. Right. Formal are methods as the formal parameters. So here you can say we are having the formal, because as I mentioned to you, this is going to be formal for all the programs to use. So we declare it as a formal parameters. The other things remains the same. Method header, method body, modifier, and all those things remains the same. And here, when you invoke the method, they are called as an actual, because you will call the method with the actual values that you want. So you can actual values you can use for different numbers, and the program will get you those different number values. Okay, right. So actual parameters, these are the actual parameters. This value is referred to as actual parameters, and this is the formal parameters, and this is the method signature and the return value, and all the bodies is going to remain the same. Now, as I mentioned to you about the return value, a method may return a value. The return value type is the data type of the value the method returns. So the method is returning integer value. So we will write here as an integer value. So the return value type is the data type of the value the method returns. So the method is returning here. The answer is in the result here, and it is returning the result as integer. So the return type also should get the same value what the method is returning. If the method does not return a value, the return value type is keyword is void. So in sometimes you don't want the value to be returned. So here you don't want the output to be returned as some value. So in that scenario, you don't want the result to be printed or returned. So in that case, you don't need to write a return value. You can simply, if there is no return, if no return, you can simply write here void. So void means it is not returning any value from the function. For example, the return value type in the main method is void. So if you remember in the main method, public static void main. So generally you write in the main, I can just take back you to the slide here where we are having a main method where, yeah, you see here in the main method, you can see here that we write public static void because main is also the method name. It is getting the formal parameter string of args, but we are talking about the main method return type because in the main method you are not having any return value. So you don't have any return value, so that's why you put it as a void. But in our example, if you are returning an integer sum, so the sum value is integer, so we will need to write here as an public static int as the number that you are going to use it over here. Okay. Yes. So let me erase this. Yeah. So for example, the return value type in the main method is void. So we are returning the main method type as integer here, and sometimes you use void as in the main program that I just now showed to you. Okay. So let's see one working example here. We have a main method, we have integer value 5, and we have an integer value j is equal to 2, and I am calling the program max of I comma j. So I will be using 5 and 2 here. So the program will immediately jump with 5 and 2 over here. So integer max, so the number one value is 5 and the number 2 value is 2. Now, if number 1 is greater than number 2, is 5 greater than 2? Yes. So the result to be returned is number 1. So the number 1 is 5. Directly, the 5 value is returned here. When it is returned, the program k is equal to 5. So now system.out.println, the maximum between 5 and 2 is, what was the value that is returned here? The value that was returned is here, 5. So the maximum of number 5 and 2. So now let me ask you to do for maximum of, say here I change the values as maximum of 30 and 70. So now I change the values, integer ki is equal to 30 and integer j is equal to 70. So now I am calling the method here maximum of, what is I value? 30. And what is the j value? It is 70. So the program will directly jump from here to here. Public static. Why? Because here you have a method name as max, and here you are having a method name as max. So this one will match, and you get the max number as 30, the number 1 as 30, and this is the number 2 as 70. So this is your formal parameters that you have declared in your main method, sorry, in your max method. So now you have here 30 is greater than 70. No. So it will not go here. Else, result is equal to number 2. So number 2 is 70 here. So the 70 number will be called here. So now return 70. So where the method will go? It will go to max of I comma j. So it is getting the number as 70. So k is 70. System.out.println, the maximum of 30 and 70 is 70 because it got the return result as 70. So those steps are clearly given here in one by one step. So the animation for this is given where I is equal to 5, as already I explained to you now, and j is equal to 2, so 5 and 2. When you call these methods with 5 and 2, now you are getting an invoke method as maximum of 5 and 2, and then the program will go to the method. So the method here is maximum of 5 and 2, and those values are calculated, and the variable is declared as result, and the type will check if the number 1 and number 2, 5 and 2 will be directly checked here. And once the numbers are checked, the program will get back to the result and say that the method maximum is being used here. So it will match with the method max. And then you can see that the result is 5. So maximum of 5 and 2 is 5 because the result will return only in this case. So here you are having 5 and here you have 2. So it will directly return the value as 5 and 2. And that's where the program goes on. So the result will directly return the value to the function where it is calling for the maximum number. And you can use this for many number of times. Say, for example, I want to use with different values. I want to do for different values. So you can create one more program here where you can write, say, for example, you want to write for integer. You can have your local program, different values. Integer, instead of integer m is equal to 70, and one more variable, integer n is equal to 200, for example. I want to find out the maximum of these two numbers. So now you have m and n. Now how you can call this method again here? This method, you can do it for one more time. What you can do, you can say integer L for some number, L is equal to maximum of. So what is the two numbers that you are calling? Before I call it with INJ. Now I call it with M and N. So I will call here with M comma N. So when N comma N is called, the program will again do over here. The method name is max, but this time what we are doing with M and N. So M and N is how much? 70 and 200. So the program will work only for 70 and 200 to check which is the maximum, and then return the maximum number. When it returns the maximum number, the program will get integer L is equal to the maximum of 70 and 200. It is 200. So you get 200 as an output. So you can repeat this statement, system.out.println, the maximum number of M and N is plus of L. So you get those numbers directly printed out over here. So this one you can repeat for different set of values. So the maximum of I is assigned, and you are getting the value directly from there, where k is the different value based on the different numbers that you are having ij. So this one is the last statement that will execute, and you are getting the output as the number. Now, there are some cautions. The caution is with what? A return statement is required for a value returning methods. I already told you in the starting that if you are expecting some value, then you should write the method name, what is the different data type that you are using. So here you are having integer, and here you should return the value. The method shown below in A is logically correct, but it has a compilation error because the Java compiler thinks it's possible that that method does not return any value. So here it should be of this type, like integer sign, and number is greater than 0, return 1, else if number is equal to 0, else if number is less than 0. So there is number is less than 0. So here there is only one condition. If number is greater than 0, it will return 1. If it is equal to 0, it will number is equal to 0, it will return 0, else return -1. So here this is not expecting anything. So it should be written in a way that there is no other value. So to fix this problem, delete if n is greater than 0, sorry, n is less than 0 in this one, so that the compiler will see a return statement to be reached regardless of how the if statement is evaluated. So here directly, instead of returning the value, you can check on. So you have to be careful about the return type that you are writing it out. So because you see, the compiler will see a return statement to be reached, regardless of how the if statement is. So directly, instead of putting if n is greater, less than 0, return -1. So you don't need to go for that one because already it will be returning the value. Okay, next. There is something which is called as a call stack. I already explained to you with different values. So the previous example where we are having I is equal to 5 and j is equal to 2 and the k value. You know, it is just like a stock. You keep on adding the numbers. It goes as a stock. It goes one over the other, one over the other. And when you pop up, it will come. The last value that you have entered will be the one which will come out. So here you can see the main method, we are having three variables, I, j, and k, and activation record for the main method, I, j, and k. So the maximum method is invoked. So now you call the maximum method. So in maximum method, you are having I value assigned to number 1, and j value is assigned to number 2. And then the maximum method is executed. Here, the maximum method will run, and the maximum of 2 and 5, and then you get the result as 5 here, and then return. So the maximum method is finished, and the return value is sent to k. So the return value is coming back to the return type as k over here, as we mentioned here. We get back this one. So when the value is returned, then the main method is finished. So you don't have any other things to do that one. So this type of operation, just to represent the variable movement, is what is called as a stack variables to be used. I guess clear for you. Just the main method is invoked, ijk, and as long as you are adding the values, it keeps on, and when it returns, it will return the value, and the main program will finish off with the executions. Okay. So with an example with a tree call stack, so I is equal to 5, it is added, and then after adding, so j is equal to 2 in the main program, so you are having j is equal to 2 added, and then we are having the next value is k. So we don't have anything right now at the k, but we are having a method to be called max of I comma, invoking a method, max of I comma j, so it is invoking. So now the method will directly go to these values, and then we have the numbers to be assigned is number 1 is assigned to 5, because you are using here number 1 is assigned to 5, and here number 2 is assigned to 2. So here it will be number 1 5 and number 2 2. So you can see the tracing of the stack 5 and 2, and then the answer is declared as result, and you are checking those values. So result is nothing here because we don't assign any value. And now the program will shuffle from one place to another place to find out what the numbers are going to be. Is number 1 is greater than number 2 is true? Yes. 5 is greater than 2? Yes, it is true. So the result will directly return the result as number 1. And here we get the number 1 result as 5 because the value of first number is 5. So the number 1 is returned to the result. And at the end, because result is returned, the program where it is calling is maximum of I comma j, and the return type is integer, and the result will be stored in k. So you have I, j, and k as the program output that we are having after executing this program. So the print statement will be executed, and you get the output in that format. I hope it was clear for you. So the more the examples that you want, you can write it, change over here, and do this one. So even you can change the I value to the j value. You can add some numbers. So say, for example, you may have different values. So I comma 2. So you can say max of I into I and comma j into j. So you are calling the method with max of I into I comma j into j. So for example, the max value was I into I. So it is 5 into 5, 25. And then j into j. So j into j is 2 into 2, 4. So now the max of 25 and 4. Say, for example, you want to call another variable with max of that is I plus 7, for example, comma, you can call it with j minus 1. So here you are calling with max of I plus 7 is 5 plus 7. It will going to be 12. And then j minus 1. So j minus 1 is 2 minus 1. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So now you can do this way also. So you can call the max with any expression, or you can directly use the value that you are going to use. So it works on how you are working with the programs and how you work with the different scenarios. Okay. Now, after explaining you all these things, now let's go to some statement which is called as passing the parameters. Now, what do you mean by passing the parameters? So you can see here that public static. So when you are having here void, it means that it is no return type. N print line string message integer n. So what is the method name here? The method name is n print line. The return type is none, and you are having a method called as public static. And you want to print a line and message with an integer number. For starting from I is equal to 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus, and system.out.println message. So you want to print some message, and how many number of times you want to print it, so many value as the number that you are giving. So here, suppose you invoke the method using nprintln welcome to Java. So this is the string, and you are having a number 5. So you are calling with the number 5. So what will happen? For I is equal to 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus, system.out.println, a message, welcome to Java, welcome to Java. So how many number of times? So suppose you invoke the method using nprintln. What is the method? Now, so here the string is computer science and the number is 15. So you are calling this number with a 15 and as a number, and you are calling this I is equal to 0, integer I is equal to 0, I is less than 15, yes, I plus plus, it will keep on repeating, and you get the same message that you typed here, that computer science. So that one will be the output that you have. But can you invoke the method using nprintln 15 in computer science? You see here, you are writing 15 as an integer value in the starting, and then you are writing the computer science. So here, how you are defining a method, the define is like a signature. So how the signature is, so the first value should be a message, and the second value should be an integer. So in this particular scenario, you can see that we have number in the starting integer value, and then we are having string. So that's where you have to be careful how the program works and what is the signature that you have defined on. So that is what we call it as passing the parameters. Pass by value. So sometimes we are actually using the value for the variable, and we want to call it. So it's a not reference to a number. We don't want with a number, we want directly with a variable. So how that's things works, you can see. So pass by value. Now here you are having 1 and 2 as a number 1 and number 2, and we are calling the number 1 and number 2 with n1 as a number 1 and n2 as a number 2. So the values of n number 1 and number 2 are passed here. And then we are having a swap method. So we will be using a method called as swap, where you want the value to be changed from 1 to 2 and 2 to 1. So activation record, number 1 and 2 will remain the same here. But what we are writing swap. So we write 2 to 1 and 1 to 2. So the method will change the value to the swap. So the value of n1 and n2 are swapped. So changing from 1 to 2 and 2 to 1, you are making the value to be exchanged. But it does not affect number 1 and number 2. So it is not affecting this number 1 and number 2. Why? Because these are in the main method. Only in the temporary method, that is only for that activation, because you are using by value. So activation record for the main method will still remain the same, 1 and 2. Only the swap value will be used. So that's where the values can be exchanged when you're talking by pass by value. Next one. We have a next topic which is called as overloading methods. So what is overloading methods? Overloading the maximum method. So here we have a method name as max, and we write here public static. So we are expecting the return type as double, and the method is max. So we are getting the signature with the two double numbers, number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is greater than number 2, return number 1, else return number 2. So here, this is with the maximum with, not with an integer value, but with a double value that you are having. So the difference is you are having the max method name, but the variables are different and the return type is different here. So earlier, what did we have? We had public static, then we say that as public static int. So we said that the return type is int, and then we said that maximum. And here we were using the two integer values, integer I or integer j, as you can call it as, or integer number 1. You can say it as number 1, and then we are having integer number 2. So we were using these numbers, and then we said that second method overloading, method names are same. The return type is different. Yes, we can have a return type as different. So sometimes there may be two or more possible matches for an invocation of a method, but the compiler cannot determine the most specific match. This is referred to as ambiguous invocation. So ambiguous invocation is a compiler error. So if you are having the same method name with the same return type, then it will be a problem. So you have to be careful that if you are having the method name to be same, the return type should be different. And then based on the return type, you can have the formal arguments and the main program that it is calling from the actual parameters. So here ambiguous invocation, but the compiler cannot determine the most specific matches. In those cases, it will create a problem. So that one will lead you into an error. So see here, for example, ambiguous invocation. This is the main method, public static, and you are calling the method as print line maximum of 1, 2. So maximum of 1, 2. So here, how many methods are available here? This is one max. You can have multiple method names, max. And here, the return type is same double, and here the return type is also double. So which one will be called? So maximum of 1, 2. So here you are having the integer variable as 1, but here you are having the double value, but here you are having integer value. So what will be the scenario here? So in that case, the program, the compiler will get confused depending upon what type of value that we are using it for the return type. So the next thing is about the scope of the variable, how you can call, and what is called as the scope. So in the previous class, when I was discussing about the loops, I told you the scope. So a local variable, a variable defined inside a method. So whatever the variable that you define inside a method is called as a local variable. So if you are defining the variable within the for loop, it is a local. If it is outside the for loop, then it is called as a global. So the scope, the part of the program where the variable can be referenced. So when you define it and where you are using it. So the scope of the local variable starts from its declaration and continues until the end of the block that contains the variable. So in a for loop, when we started with the for loop, I write for integer I is equal to, I write I is equal to 1, I is less than or equal to 10, and I plus plus. So now I am writing a for loop. So the I value will be applicable only until the starting of the declaration, until the usage, until the block ends from the start to the end. You can declare a local variable with the same name multiple times in different non-nesting blocks. So this is one for loop. For example, you are having another for loop. Yes, in another for loop also you can declare integer I is equal to 30. Why? Because this is a separate for loop and this is a separate for loop. So you can declare a local variable. So this one will be a local variable for this particular block, for the second block, and this variable will be only for that block. So in different non-nesting blocks, but you cannot declare a local variable twice in a nested block. So you cannot do it inside a block, but you can do it outside a block. You can declare it. That's where we call it as local variable. Yeah. So the example is given here. A variable is declared in the initial action part of a for loop. Header has its scope in the entire loop. But a variable declared inside a for loop has, so here, if you are declaring anything inside a loop, it will be within that. If you are declaring anything outside the loop, it is applicable for all. So say, for example, I is equal to 1, I is less than 10, I plus plus. So this is applicable from this starting to this ending. And if you are making the scope from J, if you are using a variable J, so it will start, if you are having any particular block within that, it will be applicable only for that one. But if not, it is starting from here until end, whatever the program that you are looking for. So it is fine to declare I into non-nesting, like as I mentioned to you already, I is equal to 1 here, I is equal to 1. This is a separate block that you are having, and you are having a separate block, so it is no problem if you declare I value separately. It is wrong to declare in I in two nesting blocks. You see here we are having I value as in one particular method, and again you are having I value, you are declaring again over here. So this is within the block. So you are starting the block here and you are ending the block here. And so you are declaring I value two times, here one time and here one time. So that is also will be causing an error. Now have a look at this example, scope of the fine with no errors. So there is no fine, it's fine without any errors. Why? Public static void, the method name is correct method, x is equal to 1, y is equal to 1, and integer I is equal to 1, I is less than 10, I plus plus, x plus is equal to x plus of I. Yes, and the other one, I is equal to 1, I is less than 10, I plus plus, y plus is equal to I. So I is declared here, and I is also declared here, but this is one block, so it will work only from here to here, and I is declared here, so this is from this to the end of the block. It will work from here to here. So there is no problem in declaring the scope of the variable locally if it is belonging to the only one block where it is declared and where it can be used. With errors, you see here there is an error. X is equal to 1, y is equal to 1, integer I is equal to 1, and here again you see x is equal to 0. So here you are having x is equal to 1 where it is starting with a block, and it is here, it is here, it is here. So this one will be applicable up to the end. But here x is equal to 1, and again you are declaring x is equal to 0 here. So that's where the problem will arise. So local variable and scopal variable, you have to be careful in looking at the different scenarios. Now, further continue with the method abstract. You can think of a method body as a black box that contains the detailed implementation for the method. So this is like a method body is like a black box. You know what is a black box? You cannot see inside what is there, what is happening. And that's where the method body declares. But what you can see on the top, the method header, you will be having a return value, and you are having the arguments, like what are the formal arguments that you are declaring here as optional arguments for the program to work on. So you can think of the method body as a black box. So this is a method body which is called as a method body to look into, and you can see how the program works as it is going on. And so how the method body will be used in directly in the statement as the program works on. So what are the benefits of um, write a method once and reuse it anywhere? So the things that can be used here is write a method once and reuse it anywhere. So you can write it once and reuse it anywhere. Methods, as many times that you are using, you can use it. So information heading, hide the implementation from the user. So you can hide the information from the user, what you don't want the user to see what he is doing, and you can even reduce the complexity of what the program will be doing. You don't want the things to be complicated. You want the things to be made it as simple, so you reduce the complexity. So write a method once and reuse it, like what we are doing. We write the method as max one time, and we want to use it many number of times. You can use it, and you are hiding those informations, and you can reduce the complexity. So you can look at an example here, print calendar. So this is the main method. So you can divide the program into smaller functions or smaller methods where you don't want all the program to be written as one method. So you want to break it out. So you can print it month, and in the print month also you can print the month title and print the month body. So the program complexity can be reduced when you are having methods to be used. So you can see that program main method, you can read the input, print the method, you can read the input, print the month, similarly to this. And in the print month, you can print the title, print the body, get the month starting date, get the start date. So the program can be broken down into smaller things, and it will reduce the complexity. And if you are having any error in any of the part of the program, you can simply say, for example, your print month body is not working fine. So no need to completely follow to the complete program to check for all the errors. You can simply go to that part of the program and correct it. And for example, if you see that the program month title is not printing correctly, so just go to that program code or the function where you need to correct the program in this particular print month title, and it will be fine doing these jobs. So that's how it goes. So this is where, when writing a large program, you can use this particular technique, what is called as is divide and conquer. So you are having a bigger problem, we have a bigger program, and you want to make it easy and solvable, doable easily. So what you do is, I recommend, and the programming fertility program will tell you that this one is to be broken down into different, divide the program and make it, and also known as stepwise refinement. So you can develop in steps. So you complete step 1, you complete step 2, step 3, and step 4, and join all the steps together, and it can be easily manageable. So the sub problems can be further decomposed into smaller, more manageable problems. The method should not be bigger than your screen. So for sure. So the stepwise that you are doing, it should be in a way that you can easily manage that and control it. So what are the benefits of it? You can write simpler programs when you are breaking the program into bigger steps. You can reuse it. Same code can be used, easier for making the changes, debugging and testing, and it will help in better facilitating for the teamwork. Like you can divide the work in teams, and you can give it to different functions or different modules to different people where different methods can be worked on. So you work on this method, I will work on this method. You can easily better for teamwork, and also it is easy for developing. And if there is any mistake, you can check it, and you can check what the outputs also are correctly using it. And reusing methods, you can use it for different values, and it makes the program to be as simple as to be easier to build. So with that, we come to an end of this week number 6, where we have talked about methods. If you have any questions, you can just watch the video and send the link to me for the questions, and I can reply to you, so we can continue in that way. And also, I will be recording the week 4 lecture also for your convenience, and post it on my times. You can have a link at that postal video and have to study on your own time. And Thank you and all the best. So we will meet again in any of the classes coming next week. Thank you.